Get yourself together before it's too late, right? Good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Weinstein. It's Divided We Stand, Saturday night, the 3rd December, right around 9 o'clock. And I'm actually not feeling perfect tonight. I have had a lingering cold. I tested myself for COVID and negative. Strange thing is that I always wear a mask. I've done that for the last, about 3 years and haven't had anything, but I got something. And I don't know what it is. So, onward, so to speak. Tonight, my wonderful wife, Ronni, will be joining us. Ron, can you hear me clearly, Ron?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Excellent. And you are also broadcasting via Bridgeton, New Jersey. So it's via Bridgeton and Bridgeton. Ron, we're going to see who's in the house already. We have Vegematic from London, Ontario. Veg, great to see you.
Wow.
Saw your video today. Great stuff as usual. And it's now Vegematic Deluxe. Yeah, so that's a new and improved version, right? And we've got Sandy from Environmental Coffee House. Ron,
Hey,
Sandy had that
Sandy.
video that was just shocking to
I
watch
had to
today.
share it.
Yeah, had to share that one. And we have, of course, our Joey from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Joey, great to see you. Midas Lisa, good to see you. Karen, great to see you. Kim from the great state of Washington. And who else do we have? Jeez. Epi from Scotland. Yes, Ron, we have a
Wow.
wonderful audience member from Scotland, and he listens at around 2 in the morning. So this is just amazing.
Very cool.
And I told him it's very touching for me to have somebody from Scotland because, as you know, I'm a big fan of Scotland, especially because of my our Scottish Terriers.
Right.
So yeah, and Sandy here sends her regards. So there you go, and lots of things. So yeah, and everybody's sending their love here.
Back
Everybody's
at ya.
yeah. This is just a great group, a small group, but it's nice because it's ready for tonight's show. Maybe more like I want to puke. Yeah, well, I didn't expect this type of show earlier this week. You know, usually our show revolves around specifically the Republican Party, but shit happens. And some real shit happened this week.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that was Kanye West. So I'm going to assume that everybody, Ronnie, out there has seen what had happened. We're going to show some clips today of that. We've got that. We've got a few things from Donald Trump tonight. We have, I don't know how to pronounce Donald Trump Jr.'s wife's name, Kim Guilfoyle. How do you say?
Guilfoyle,
Guilfoyle,
I
yeah.
think.
She's twerking or showing her kids how to twerk. How nice. And I do have a video from Russia that I think is really important for folks to see. Attitudes of Russians towards LGBTQ vis-a-vis Moscow against the rural areas. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of really shitty shit to show you today, and then we can have our discussion, see how everybody feels. Ron, I will usually just post a lot of the comments. I'm usually behind in the comments. I'm going to try to keep up today.
Mm-hmm.
It was discussing. So we are going to first show what we can of the interview with Kanye West, and I believe it was Nick Fuentes was part of this also, and he's a real winner. I have a clip of him too, and of course Alex Jones, and the strangest thing, Ron, is that in this particular clip that we're going to see, Alex Jones seems to be the more reasonable one, which is almost
Pretty
hard,
daunting.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's just batshit crazy. Who else? We got Trevin here, and we've got also Nina, Canadian. We have, I think half of our audience is Canadian, about a quarter's overseas and about a quarter's from the United States, but that's just fine with us. So be right with you. I'm going to switch scenes in a sec, and we'll be right back. All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me. We may get a slight reverb on this, but that's kind of necessary. So what I'll do is I'm going to play the clip. Ron, you can hear me, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So I am going to play this clip. It's probably going to last around 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not sure, but here we go.
I've done a lot of study. I think Hitler was a really bad guy, and I repudiate what Hitler did. I understand that the British intelligence set him up and used him.
I like Hitler.
I don't like Hitler. And I know you're trying to be shocking with that.
I'm not trying to be shocking. I like Hitler. I see good things about Hitler also. You can't say out loud that this person ever did anything good, and I'm done with that. I'm done with the classifications. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler. Yeah, I don't like the word evil next to Nazis. I think we need to look at...
Oh, my goodness. Just because you don't like one group doesn't mean the other. But look,
I love Jewish people, but I also love Nazis. Well, I want to say there's a lot of good Nazis that were just fighting for their country. And for them all...
Like George Soros.
For them all to get put in a box. They're all in a box. Every Nazi's bad. Well, could some of the Nazis have just been fighting for their country? We can't put them all in a box.
All right. Do you have any comments on Hitler?
I have to agree with you.
Schwarzenegger said he loved Hitler. They gave him an award. I'm just saying, I don't like Nazis, and I don't like what some of the mafias are doing either.
I like Hitler.
Okay, let me go back to the other scene here. Now, it doesn't have to go without saying that that video was one of the most popular videos on InfoWars. Okay, so as much as it's revolting, a lot of views, including mine and obviously other people. But there's a lot going on in that video, a lot of joking that really was no joke. So, Ron, I'm going to begin with you. One at an emotional level, how you felt.
I'm getting wrinkles from this video. First of all, it just pisses me off that we're actually giving attention to, I mean, how can you not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I really do believe that giving attention is like feeding the monster. There's just a small, tiny part of me that didn't sound like Kanye West. I don't know. Maybe it was because of the mask. I don't know. It just dawned on me that there was a possibility that wasn't him.
Well, his face was covered.
Right. I just didn't sound like him. Not that I'm intimately aware of his voice, but I wouldn't put anything past, Alex Jones or the InfoWars I mean, he's totally capable of saying that. I just, it's just the amount of times that I've personally watched the video. I can only imagine how many times other people have watched it. The fact that he burst out laughing, I don't know if the whole thing was just, to me, it was just bizarre. It was just a bizarre display.
Well, Jones certainly had to know that a lot of people were going to watch this.
Yeah, even for him, it was bizarre to me. To me, I mean, he did say some things that shocked me, that he didn't like Hitler and he didn't think he was but yeah, it just something dawned on me just now that said, I don't know if that was him.
Mm-hmm. Well, it wouldn't have surprised me that it was him. I mean, first of all, you have...
Well, it wouldn't surprise me either. I'm just saying it didn't sound like him.
The triumvirate there, you've got Nick Fuentes, you have Alex Jones, then you have Kanye West. So they represent what's the worst in people, and these are the people whom Trump places great value because they can do him a lot of good, so to speak, in his terms, good, of course.
Are you asking me what did I think of it? I mean, what
No. I mean, I was thinking there's just one first at an emotional level when you hear that.
Yeah, my emotional reaction to that is, bipolar, not on meds. I don't know about Nick Fuentes, but I mean, we all know that Kanye West has bipolar disorder and he's not on medication. So, that pretty much I think that of many people who behave that way. Elon Musk, another person. Donald Trump, another person. Probably half of the Republican Party. I just don't think, these are examples of people who are in their right state of mind. So, I mean, that's my main reaction to things like this.
By the way, I'm going to guess Facebook user. It could be anybody, but I think that might be our Bill Waterman. Bill, it's good to see you if that's you. And if not, it's good to see whoever you are. I'm going to bring up something about McCarthyism. We had a brief conversation about that, Bill, but I'm going to bring that up later. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on there with Alex Jones. Number one, you heard him mention George Soros. He said, there are Nazis out there, and he has to mention George Soros, who'd be the last person to be a Nazi. Okay, people whose parents have survived the Holocaust or died in the Holocaust. I'm not sure with Soros, but yeah, but Soros is from Hungary, he's obviously Jewish, liberal, so there's a projection there anyway. So we'll just call them a Nazi, and I think that as Gary had mentioned, that he was just kind of this was all kind of put on. I think that what Jones wanted to do was just get those views, and he got them. He got exactly what he wanted, and Jones himself is in deep doo-doo because he's lost these court cases and he owes a lot of money and he declared bankruptcy, and that's another story in itself. But it sounds like a lot of these things are getting fever pitched. And what I mean by that, we all know what fever pitched is, but it seems like it's all happening at once now. You have Trump, who seems to be, really under the microscope right now, and it looks like he's hit a wall. And so he comes out with these comments about how we've got to, basically undo the Constitution. Let me see if I have it here. For God's sakes, I have all these things set up. Yeah, let me just show you this. Again, this will tie into what I'm saying, Ron, in a second. And I know it's going to...
Well, it's not that complicated. Yeah.
No, but it's, and I'm not even saying that they're working together in this, but and you wouldn't even have to have them work together, but it all seems to happen at once. So this morning, Trump says, so with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party. Of course, he calls it the Democrat Party. Sounds like Lyndon LaRouche is back in town. Do you throw the presidential elections of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, and even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Right. So here he's basically saying, let's get rid of the Constitution.
Right. And here it is 2030, and he's still talking about 2020.
Yeah, and again, he's essentially doing what Jones does. He first of all, he's saying the founders don't want this. They wouldn't condone this false. It's just projecting the lies that he's created himself.
It's an inability to accept loss. It's an inability to accept not winning. Okay?
Right.
What is his whole mantra was winning. We're going to be so tired of winning. Well, he's lost. And part of his personality is he cannot lose. Therefore, he's making shit up. Okay?
Right.
I didn't lose. It's 2.5 years later. Okay? It's an illness.
Right. But I think that the pressure is even greater for him because as much as he is an egotist, a narcissist, I think he does understand the realities that he's facing right now, especially from the DOJ. He's in a real pickle because it looks like of all the things that he's in trouble for.
Well, you kind of got off Kanye. Are you done with him?
Well, not quite yet. Okay, because they're all within this
right.
circle. It's
right.
just this behavior. relating to Trump with Kanye talking about, well, not all the Nazis were good. It's like the stop clock is right twice a day thing, and it's trying to say that Hitler was, he's got some good qualities because he loved his dog and he would pet it on its head, which is true. He loved his dog.
I had a friend who said to me, I understand what Hitler was doing. I understand. I can understand what he was trying to do. This was somebody that I was friends with. And after that, I couldn't fathom even talking.
Well, I think this is where this hatred, which, Kanye West should think about, of all people, to have that type of hatred for somebody without any evidence of this, for him to say that, it's mind-boggling, because this is this inner hatred that develops, and they just latch on to certain things. Just like you'll remember, we were discussing this around the night that Dave Chappelle opened on SNL. He was funny at times, but then at other times, he did push it a little too far. He says, well, Hollywood, there are a lot of Jews there. As if that, see, again, just by saying that, he's assuming that because there are Jews there, that somehow there's this cabal and they're trying to control, what goes out on the screen, which is not the case. Okay? They're not having a cabal. The NBA is not a cabal of black players who are trying to force the fact that the majority of the players are African American. They're not doing that. They're there to play basketball as well as they possibly can, and that's it. There's no other motive aside from obviously trying to make some money. So when he said that type of thing, it's these comments that try to give credence to some of these ideas. Yes, Hitler loved his dog. Yes, he built a highway that lasted for whatever number of years. If it's still there, I don't know. But who gives a shit? Everybody is capable of doing one good thing, but it's the rest of the things that are diabolical. I am sure that Vladimir Putin has pet a dog before or shed a tear over a family member, but that doesn't make him an acceptable human being. He's still a monster. Okay, all it's saying is that he 24/7, he's not a monster. Maybe there's a 3 seconds where he decides to go to sleep. So it's just this idea of trying to give credence to something. And it sounds almost right, Ron. Like if you hear what he said, well, not everything they do is wrong. Not all of them are bad. And that, to the layman just trying to listen to that, says, well, that kind of makes sense. Not all of them are bad. But it really doesn't.
No, you can't be a Nazi and be good.
Right. I understand that. But it's the phrase, it's the semantics of what they say. It's almost like, you're trying to convince somebody to believe what you believe in. So you ask these questions that always get this yes out of them. So it tries to steer them. Do you like, clean air? Do you like this, that? You keep going with the questioning, and then you try to lead them psychologically into coming onto your side, or at least to making the person think that you are saying something of value, which he was not. But there are people, again, remember who's listening. We have a lot of ignorant people listening. They're going to say,
Right, but isn't the bigger issue, okay, Kanye's on Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes having dinner with Donald Trump and Kanye West, but Donald Trump is running for president. Why is he still being allowed to do? This is the bigger problem, question, dilemma that's going on. Is it ever, going to end? Are these people in Congress, in the Senate, are they ever going to say that's enough?
Mm-hmm. Gary makes a good point here, Ron. I don't know can you see the commentary, Ron? Yeah. Okay, it says, that's ye crap with Trump's good people on both sides right there. That's a great example. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And And people like hearing that kind of shit. It just kind of smells good to them for some reason.
Listen, Donald Trump, whoever's on Donald Trump's good side is who likes Donald Trump. Okay? If Kanye West didn't like Donald Trump tomorrow, Donald Trump wouldn't like Kanye West anymore. Okay? So they are, of course, they're saying good people on both sides because really, does Donald Trump have the support of sane people? No. He has the support of bigots and racists and white supremacists at this point. And maybe he has 3 black people who support him, but he's only going to be happy, or he's only going to, the people that he's going to like are the people who like him. Period. The end. That's the way it's always been, and that's the way it is.
Mm. Well, I want to show you the other person who was on the right side as you look at the screen. This would be Nick Fuentes. Now, this is not from the InfoWars video yesterday. This is prior, but it came from, I guess it was Comedy Central, but it was serious. So I want to show this to give you an idea of what we're doing with Nick Fuentes. And of course, we know there are a lot of people that believe this shit. And this is where you get the Kanye Wests and things like that. So let's, although I don't think Kanye West would agree with this video. So let me see if I can set this up. Okay. And here we go.
About America, they say diversity is our strength.
How precisely is diversity our strength?
You got to recognize the fact that this is a godless country. I hate it.
You're right. They're godless. That is exactly right. I never talk like that, but it's true.
Black people are violent, you know?
They have chaos and violence in their communities.
Send the military into these black neighborhoods, make the streets safe, they'll complain about it. It doesn't matter.
We should send in the troops if necessary to restore order.
Enough with the Jim Crow stuff. Who cares? Oh, to drink out of a different water fountain. Big fucking deal.
Oh, the legacy of Jim Crow. That was 67 years ago. It is ancient history now.
Russia. Can we give a round of applause for Russia?
And why shouldn't I root for Russia, which I am?
The fundamentals of our worldview, a society where boys and girls get married as teenagers and start having kids.
We need these ladies to get married. And it's time to fall in love and just settle down. Guys, go put a ring on it.
And they have big families and a high birth rate.
We have to do something to increase our birth rate, or the vacuum that's created will be filled by people that don't believe in our values.
We live in a big Middle Eastern bazaar. We're a big fucking Middle Eastern bazaar with people sitting on blankets and selling cockroaches on sticks.
We have a moral obligation to admit the world's poor, they tell us, even if it makes our own country poorer and dirtier and more divided.
And white people are done being bullied.
Discriminating against and just denigrating white people.
Trump's got to get in there and never leave. Elect Trump one more time and then stop having elections.
President for life, that sounds good. Maybe we're going to have to try it. President for life.
Does he know he's almost 80 years old? President for life. What life? I mean, it's so pathetically, almost tragically comic.
No, a narcissist probably doesn't worry
Elect
so much
Trump
about it.
one more time and stop having elections? How many more elections does he think he's going to have? Or years? It's just insane.
Well, I think that the key is he just wants to finish it out on top. In other words, he wants to be in control. He likes the idea of being the most powerful man in the world. And that's the scariest thing, because he was the most powerful man in the world, and he still wields a lot of power, unfortunately, and we still don't know what's going to happen here. Let's look a few of the comments, Ron, here. Stage crap. I saw a meme that showed a video where 3 guys told Kanye what to say when he actually said that they were all laughing like crazy in the back room. Yeah, it could have been staged too. Yeah, I mean,
it seemed, when I just saw that again, when you showed it, it seemed really unreal to me in a way. It was just, I don't know. I'm going to have to watch it again. I think I'm going to have to watch it again.
Well, I think it is him. I think Gary's saying it is him. It's just, wearing that mask thing, having that coat with all the different, stitched, logos from these companies. I would imagine it was him. I mean, he certainly came.
I'm sorry, Nina made a comment. She agreed with me about talking about it and giving it fuel. But what's the alternative? If we don't talk about it, right? Like, we have to keep talking about it, unfortunately.
Right, it has to be discussed.
Right? I don't want to. I do believe that, yes, Gary. I think that the attention is what they, is their nutrition. I mean, for a narcissist, that is what they feed upon. But then you just can't ignore it. Otherwise, it'll be like a Hitler thing, and it will just swoop in.
Kinky here is mentioning that Alex Jones' wife was. I didn't know that, to be honest with you. But it's just kind of strange how those things.
Well, no wonder he doesn't like Nazis. Ha. Excuse me a minute. This is making me sick. I have to take a Nexium.
There was a story, and I'm trying to remember. I know it had to do with Hedy Lamarr, but Hedy Lamarr left Austria, I believe, as the Germans started creeping into Western Europe, and there was a Nazi. It was, I guess I don't know if what rank he was. He was fairly highly ranked, and he fell in love with Hedy Lamarr. He was hoping that she could stay there. It's kind of interesting how people do their thing when they're attracted to somebody. Now Matt Taibbi on the Hunter Biden laptop case. And by the way, still, they've never produced Hunter Biden's laptop. So this is kind of, and it's all, I believe it was all Rudy Giuliani's doing. He's the one who said he had a copy of it, and he's never shown it. The actual laptop.
What, that he actually left it at a repair place? You think that really happened? No.
Yeah. Bye-bye to the Constitution. Well, that's what they want, Lisa. I think that's, they see, again, we've talked about this many times before, and Ron, I imagine you're gonna agree with me on this, is that they see how the demographics in the country are changing. They see how they cannot win the national elections, and so they're going to force minority rule, and the only way now to do that is to destroy the Constitution. And if they can't do it at a national level, they'll try to destroy it at the state level. Now, from that, what I showed you on Twitter with Trump, it sounds like he's pushing this idea for people to take up arms and or at least feel comfortable in going against the Constitution. And I think the closer, this is just my opinion, the closer he gets to that indictment for Mar-a-Lago and all the classified documents, the closer he gets to that, the closer he will get to trying to, fan the flames and get these lunatics to come out. And then and he will.
No, they will.
Well, the question is, how many of them will? And I guess the bigger question is, these people who hold office, those who were elected during the midterms and those who are already there, what are they going to do? Are they going to go along with it? Now, this, Ronnie, came up in a conversation I had with Bill Waterman the other day. And I'm going to go to the web here. This is not a video, by the way, but it's important, I think. And, we know about McCarthyism and what he got away with, but I bring this up because I think it's important. And it has to do with Eisenhower, who of course was the president at the time when all this nonsense was happening with McCarthyism. And of course, he was a junior senator, McCarthy from Wisconsin. And I believe he was the Secretary of State was it George Marshall? Yeah, George Marshall. And he was attacked. And Eisenhower, being a military man, was, he was just horrified by it. But he did not say anything in defense of Marshall. after he was attacked by McCarthy because he was afraid. And again, it gets to this point here is that 50% of the country at the time supported McCarthy, over 50%. And doesn't that sound familiar? Here it is. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger. If you can kind of zero in, it says here, right in the center of the page, by the end of 1953, polls indicate that at least half of all Americans had a favorable impression of McCarthy and his tactics. And you can see how this kind of crap can get out of hand. And what Bill Woodrum was mentioning to me last week is what you and I were talking about, Ron, is that the advantage we have now is, is that the media was basically the three networks, then you had your newspapers. But the three networks were, they didn't have any skin in the game to be on one side of the party or not. Their skin in the game was for, hey, we're going to do our job, First Amendment, and report it truthfully. That's what they were going to do. Okay? They didn't have a Fox News back in 1953 to help them out. Now, again, this is what I'm just going to repeat basically what Bill had said, and it was great. It's the issue that there is a Fox News, and the McCarthys of today, who intimidated the Eisenhowers of today. I won't say maybe Eisenhower, but at the Senate level and at the Congress level, these people are just giving in left and right. But now they've got Fox and Newsmax, and they have the Goebbels types out there, the Mike Lindells. So it's you look back then, and you can see how Eisenhower gave in, and that was even when things were more legit back then. But you can see the fear. So I don't think the people are any different then than they are now, Ron. I think that it was a danger then, but luckily we weren't at this point back then. Now we're in trouble because the truth doesn't matter whatsoever. What really does matter is how loud you say it and if somebody's willing to believe it. I mean, you and I wouldn't believe in Nick Fuentes. You and I wouldn't believe anything that Kanye West has to say. It's ridiculous. I mean, I just the fact that he's wearing that face mask to me is just, grow up.
Well, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if it's ironic, but just the fact that we're still talking about Hitler, that you would think after that happened, that would never be an issue ever again. But here we are. I guess it never really went away. Hatred of Jews, hatred of blacks, hatred of gays, hatred of anything other than white, Aryan, whatever.
And now it's become liberals. They just hate liberals.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the big club that they really want to destroy.
I don't even think Hitler himself would have thought that he would have lived on this far and influenced up until now so many people. I mean, he's a reference, he's a reference point for these people. And it really blows my mind that he is still being referenced in this type of situation.
Ron, do you want to comment? Midas Lisa is mentioning Bill Maher. That's just a little offside, but I think you might want to.
Well, I'm totally with you there. I have a hard time watching him. Something has changed dramatically. I don't know exactly where to put my finger on it, though, to be honest with you, with Bill Maher. But he's a admitted capitalist. He's not a Democrat. He's a libertarian. So I think where he used to be far to the left, he's definitely swung over, I think, more between middle and right. Don't you, Brian?
I think he's very angry with the left because of the COVID thing. I think it interrupted his lifestyle and what he likes and his audience. And I mean, I haven't even seen him have Michael Moore on it, a guy he's had on all the time, especially after the 22, because Michael Moore got it right. And he decided to start making attacks. And every show, he had an issue with the fact that masks had to be used, that No, that people, if they would just simply lose weight, we wouldn't have this problem in the first place.
That's so bizarre.
Right. So he was angry at everybody. I mean, I think one was more of a personal issue, and then it infiltrated into this thing against liberalism. And it's almost as if he was trying to send a message to the conservatives, like, I'm not too far from you. You should watch me too. So it's like, I think that he got off on, not CNN, Fox News, showing some clips from Bill Maher, because they'll do that. I mean, they'll show somebody who's a liberal as long as they have any kind of blurb that, can help out Trumpism.
Well, I mean, remember when he used to have people on like Ann Coulter, regularly. And, it used to be like, oh, look, she's on that side and I'm on this side. But then those kinds of guests, he started mind melding a little bit with, as far as I was concerned. But do you really think it was the mask thing that moved him from the left? You think it was the mask? And like at that point? I think it was before COVID.
I don't know. Look, he's had his issues, but let's just do this. I've said many, many times, your favorite song is the one that has the greatest number of counts, plays. You may think a song's your favorite song, but the reality is, if you play a song more, it's generally probably your favorite song. Every goddamn show, he kept bringing up the masks.
No, you're absolutely right.
And that,
it's sickening.
Now, was he able to reveal why he had a problem with that? I think that what he was hiding was he wanted to have his audience. He's a lot like Donald Trump in that sense. Bill Maher loves the attention. He just absolutely adores
but it was even after the mandate was lifted, he was back in the studio and he was still making comments like, I want to punch somebody who's wearing a mask.
Right.
So, at the supermarket, he's not on stage at the supermarket. So where is this, where does that, I'm not even, you know what? I'm so over him. Like, I don't even care. But what? Keith Orman dated Lori Ingham.
It's hard to believe that he actually dated her, but I guess. But that was then, too. I'm sure it was probably a while back.
I don't find that hard to believe.
Look at, again, going back to Kimberly Guilfoyle, she was married to Newsom, and she just looked, actually, you know what, folks, if you look at pictures of her, she looks like she's actually changed as a human being. Physically changed. It's hard to believe. So she became ugly in terms of her politics, but she became different in terms of her looks. So, yeah. No, it looks like Jack Smith is going to do his job. But who knows? Maybe they won't,
I don't know what to say to that. I don't know.
Okay. I want to kind of speed up some more of these commentary, just to make sure. Of course, it was Kanye. Okay. I'm usually a little bit behind, Ron, and I have to apologize to everybody. We do need to keep an eye on them. Okay, so we're a little bit behind. Minority rule, minorities, basically white people. Yeah, well, that minority rule would be better. And in fact, that's what saved us in 2020. It was the African American vote, and especially the African American vote in Philly, because if you remember, Trump kept saying right before the election, we're watching you, Philadelphia. We're watching you. So he knew what was going to happen. He knew he was going to lose Pennsylvania because he knew that just the African American vote was just going to tilt the election in Pennsylvania, and it did. And he couldn't handle it. So he had to just bring up shenanigans.
And isn't it an interesting Georgia situation with two black candidates? But one might as well be not.
Right. Well, we can. And I think that's what we have to understand. And in a certain way, it's a good thing to look at people, because people are people, and color really, really, in the end, doesn't matter, because we share so many things that are human, and there are going to be your Clarence Thomases, and there are going to be some Jews like my cousin who loved Donald Trump. You can't get away from that. They have their own motives. Who knows, exactly why. But speaking of Kim Guilfoyle, let's look at this. This is really sickening from two different ways. First of all, what she's trying to teach her kids. It's only 15 seconds, but just the way that Donald Trump Jr. Displays himself in these tweets. Yeah, this is going to be tough to watch, but you'll see here. All right, I'll move this back.
He is so hard.
Oh, he is something else. He thinks he's Don Juan here, She's in the background.
This is what's going on in our house right now. I have no idea what the hell's happening. This is what's going on in our house right now. I have no idea what the hell's happening.
All right. No,
Isn't he great?
He's just so ignorant anyway. Number one, I've seen the way he puts sentences together. It's just absurd that this guy could consider himself intelligent because he has no command of the English language. Not that I do, but I have a lot better command than he does.
Well, doesn't he have substance problems? I mean, you can tell.
Well, it looks like it. It looks like he's on something there.
Right.
Because he's got that sweat going on, that sweat high that he seems to have. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens when you drink and you're all...
His father has it too.
Pardon me?
His father has it too.
Yeah.
Please.
Let me just see. We have... Now, I do want to show, because, Ron, you mentioned about LGBTQ, and I want to show this. And... as bad as we think it is here, in Russia, Putin has outlawed LGBTQ. Now, I want you'll see there'll be subtitles there. You're going to see first the interviews in Moscow, the younger people, and then you go to the rural areas. And this is really not unlike, and I keep saying this over and over again, this is something that is so identifiable. It's a pattern. Forget the language. That matters none. It's just the idea of propaganda and ignorance and how deeply embedded it is in the human psyche. And they're taking advantage of it. Okay, so let's check this out. Okay, this is from Moscow, and then they're going to have a clip from a little bit outside of Moscow. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to bear this. Okay, it is a little bit long, but I may stop it in between. Who knows? In the beginning, you get quite hopeful, but not in the end.
Смотрите, вот сейчас у нас, вы, наверное, слышали, приняли закон о полном запрете пропаганды ЛГБТ. Как вообще к этому относитесь? Плохо?
Да.
Почему?
Меня никак не решает, зачем этот закон принимать и зачем, в принципе, трогать людей, которые не традиционно питаются.
Любой запрет, в отличие от какой-либо действия по пропаганде чего-либо другого, является, скажем так, отрицательной инициативой. Потому что если хотят пропагандировать, скажем так, другой образ жизни, то надо пропагандировать образ жизни, а не запрещать другого. Так, скажем так, одно дело законодательство, которое есть по пропаганде среди детей,
As you watch here, these people seem reasonable, but this will change, and usually with the older people.
Поток информации его стоит, но не только в таком плане, но тогда же и пропаганда вообще как бы чересчур сексуализация и всего прочего. Если среди взрослых, то как бы считать, что взрослые настолько тупые, что сами не поймут, это глупо.
Я не могу говорить, как я к этому отношусь.
Почему?
Потому что моя точка зрения не совпадает с правительством.
Это такая глупость. Пропаганда не существует. В плане, смотря что они считают пропагандой.
Ну вот то, что, например, там в книгах, в фильмах, любовь там мужчины к мужчине показывается. Это и есть пропаганда, по их мнению.
Ну, я не нахожу в этом пропаганду, поэтому я против таких вещей. А меня потом за это не отчислят?
Вряд ли.
Надеюсь, нет. Надеюсь, нет.
Ну, это просто бессмысленно.
Почему бессмысленно?
Ну, это, можно сказать, просто запрещают обычным людям проявлять...
Okay, now I'm going to move it ahead. You can see the people are reasonable here, but now you start getting to the older people. So here we go. And they get really nasty too. Okay? This is outside of Moscow.
Снимаем, решили у людей узнать, как они относятся к ЛГБТ. Это геи, лесбиянки, трансгендеры.
О, Господи. О, Господи, скажи. Вот так отношусь.
Слышали вообще, кто это
Куда
такие?
мир катится? Ужас, ужас. Кому это такое в голову могло прийти? Ой, страшно стало.
То есть вы хотите сказать, что президент правильно сделал, что он подписал указ о запрете пропаганды ЛГБТ,
Конечно.
А как думаете, вот почему люди такими становятся вообще?
Это, наверное, немножко отклонение, наверное.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ну, а как считаете, сколько людей таких у нас в России?
Ну, я бы не сказала, что, ну, что я, как, откуда я могу точно сказать вот так? Единицы, наверное, такое. Это же нормой не может быть. Это же ненормально, а ненормальных стороной.
Знаете, кто такие? Слышали о них?
Я не слышу.
Ну, это геи, лесбиянки, люди, которые пол меняют.
А я эти закон не слышал. Не знаю.
Ну, а сами как вообще к ним относитесь?
Конечно, отрицательно отношусь.
Да, почему?
А зачем? Мне нужны лесбиянки, да и эти гои-лесбиянки. Зачем они нужны? Тебе плохо живется.
Ну, они встречаются ли вам вообще? Сделали ли вам? Мешают ли они вам?
Ну, я сейчас здесь, я сейчас не знаю. В нашем дворе, может быть, есть, но тайком, может быть, я не знаю. Я не могу фамилию назвать, ни одной фамилии не могу.
Правильно, давно пора надо было, конечно, давно. Вот насчет Украины вообще, вот у нас что-то слишком мягкосердечные стали. Вот нас не уважают, мы что-то мямимся, вот это не только я говорю. Правильно? Вот жесткие меры надо принимать. Ну как? Вон наших солдат сейчас расстреляли, по телевизору показывали, мне волосы дымом стали. Ну как так? А мы слишком телимся, мягко говоря. Извините за выражение, но я хочу сказать, тоже зверствовать, но жесткий закон надо принимать. Ну как-то... Вот войны, как говорится, не было такой. Вот. Кончилось, как говорится, быстрее, тем лучше.
Ну, вам кажется, что таких у нас в России очень много стало, да?
Ну вот сейчас у нас, как тебе сказать, мы народ терпеливый, кажется, россияне, вот немножко из-за этого, не знаю, вот. Ну, сами, с одной стороны, миролюбивые же, не только, не мы же войну начали. Вот, не только мое мнение, не надо было вот столько лет ждать, чтобы Украину вот так вооружали, и как, что, может, не 100% я говорю, но все равно вот. Украина, фашизм.
Как люди относятся к ЛГБТ? Вообще знают, что это такое?
Что-то... Это геи,
Да,
лесбиянки.
вот эти. Как к ним относитесь?
Я отрицательно. Как-то... Я не знаю.
А почему отрицательно?
У нас воспитание было такое.
Ну, может быть, вот в ваших кругах кто-нибудь подался вам?
Я не знаю, нет. Я уже на пенсии долго лет. Спасибо.
Все, спасибо вам. Как они относятся к ЛГБТ?
Отрицательно.
Почему?
Это, знаете,
ЛГБТ– это конец существования человечества.
Okay, so we'll stop it right there because you can get a feel for what's going on.
Definitely.
But they, I mean, if you would have seen the rest of it, ladies and gentlemen, you would have seen the same old crap, even worse. No ability to have any type of sympathy or empathy for anyone who thinks differently. And it's endorsed by the government. And you see these old people are so ingrained in their thoughts. And it also matters where they're from too, meaning in the hinterlands. I mean, they're sick people. And this is why you don't see a lot of change in Russia happening. Not only are they afraid, but there are too many of those types. And we have the same types, don't we, Ron?
I was just going to say we're moving in the same direction.
Yeah,
we're moving in the same direction.
I mean, we have I showed a video last week of that lunatic from Utah whose son, murdered all those people in that club.
His father.
Club Q. Yeah, his father, a guy who, as I said, he was an MMA guy, so he was, he got off on beating the shit out of people, and he was a porn guy, so he liked dominating people. He's just a sick person, and you could see him. He literally looked like he's really effed up.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see why his son was like, but this is the thing. And I remember him saying, we don't do gay. We don't do gay. There's no way back on this thing. And it becomes acceptable to say that kind of crap. And they're looking at us, and you have at us like we're crazy. And in Russia, I mean, even what we're saying right now, that would be it. Yeah, I'm going to jump ahead because I know we've had a lot of commentary. Suppress Trump and are proud boys and gatekeepers and Jim Jordan. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too, Ron. I mean, I don't know what your opinion is, but when somebody keeps talking about gays and in a very mean-spirited way, and they continually do it, it makes you wonder, if they're not like...
You mean like Lindsey Graham?
Like Lindsey Graham or...
Jim Jordan.
Or Hoover, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Are they projecting? It's hard to say. But it seems like it has in fact here, with Epi from Scotland, I mean, the Orthodox Church, they defend everything the government says, right? And they'll intertwine that into this religious stuff, which is, I mean, I don't remember anything being said about LGBTQ in any religious text.
Wasn't it said that Hitler was gay, perhaps? I mean...
The only thing that I remember reading is that the assumption was that he was missing a testicle, and he may not have been sexual at all. I don't know about being gay. I mean, he obviously married a woman, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. And I know that a lot of gays were killed. They were sent to the camps like Jews. So I don't know, but it was just peculiar, that he would wait till the very end to get married. He was only affectionate. Again, we get back to his dogs. He was only affectionate to the dogs. He didn't seem, at least in any films that I've seen, he didn't see affectionate with his wife aside from being near her. It's like almost like Trump in a way. I mean, did we ever see them embracing and kissing? Not that I'd want to see it. I mean, have we?
What you'd want to see? Not want to see what?
Trump and Melania.
Oh,
I mean,
no. Vegematic brought up a good point about the older people being used to having to side with the government. It's really like being in an abusive relationship all your life. I mean, you just start, being attached to the abuser, and you almost feel sorry for them because they're too scared to do anything else. It's it's like a battered wife syndrome in a way.
Hmm.
You know, they just, they're just abused mentally and emotionally. And, you have to give those people, the younger people, a lot of credit for saying out loud how they really feel.
Hmm. Sandy just mentioned the kid that murdered all those people had a totally flat head, which is indicative of some kind of neglect as a baby. Well, I wouldn't be surprised with that guy because
Yeah.
his father was a sick son of a bitch. Vegemite, it's a very complicated issue. The collapse of the Soviet Union, rich and oligarch class at the expense of the people, is the bottom line. Yeah, well, that's part of the problem, too. In fact, Hal Sparks, Ron, brought up a good point today. How he disagreed with the Federal Reserve and how they're doing all these things to try to curb inflation, when in reality, a lot of what's happened has to be expected after 2 years of COVID. And now that you can pretty much go out and get the job you want these days, and wages have come up for a lot of people, Wall Street doesn't like that. And what they don't like is, as Hal Sparks said, I'm going to paraphrase, he said, they want gigantic profits. They're still getting huge profits, but that's not good enough for them because they want to steal that value from our workers. Now, I'm going to sound like a communist saying something like that, but it's not even that. It's just saying, people deserve a fair wage. And for Wall Street to be upset with what's going on, I'm actually kind of happy what's going on because I'd like to see less output. I'd like to see wages go up. I'd like to force these wages up because you have states like Kansas where they had a minimum wage of $7.25. That kind of crap's got to end. You can't just do this to people. That's wage slavery. It's terrible, and they get away with it. They steal the value, and that's what happened in Russia. The oligarchs stole the value, and to a certain extent, the city of Moscow and St. Petersburg stole the value from the rest of the country, and yet these people are willing to, was a furry. They might be afraid. Some might be afraid, and some just might actually believe it. I mean, there were people during Stalin. Thank you, Sandy. Stalin's time who actually, were right behind Stalin. Okay, now, folks, we are going to have a short show tonight. Okay, we're almost at the end right now, but I do want to finish up the commentary in case we've missed, because I have covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover. I did want to show you a few other things here, just on Twitter, a couple things, and then that'll be it. I don't think Melania wanted him near her. I think it's kind of embarrassing for her because I think she does think about her own beauty. To be, having to claw over him would look kind of bad, He didn't even like dogs. Trump doesn't even like dogs. No, he doesn't.
She knew what she was getting into.
Of course she did. Hitler was accused at the time with a fixation for his niece, who later shot herself. If you listen to N-Fuckers, I haven't seen his videos in a while. Before the war, before he left, Russians were getting a lot of freedom and had social media. The young people are probably pissed. Yeah. I mean, let me just show you one last thing here if I can. Yeah. Okay. So this will be the last, folks. I want you to see it. These were some of the different things we saw on Twitter. So again, it says unprecedented fraud requires unprecedented cure, because that's Trump. But again, that's that idea that, he's saying we have to go beyond the Constitution here. Now, again, we know that his people will do it, but when we say his people, I mean, these assholes in the rural lands and in my county.
Didn't Rittenhouse meet with Congress?
Well, he didn't meet with any Democrat in Congress.
No, you know what I'm saying.
Right. But yeah, he met with with Jim Jordan, I think. Kyle Rittenhouse, I'm proud to be an American. And I got this from, from Veg's feed. It says, you are a disgusting example of an American. As a veteran who apparently fought for your right to kill people in the street like a vigilante, seeing you anywhere near an American flag makes me nauseous. The only difference between you and a school shooter was location. You're absolutely right, Ryan Pinesworth. That was really, really true. And then, of course, I showed you this one. Yeah, so I think we've covered it. But, this is a struggle every day. And I think we just have to be able to deal with this kind of thing. And I think this is why this channel and these groups, groups like Sandy with the Environmental Coffee House. I think, Sandy, if I may say this, that, your group is basically dealing with the same thing that this group is dealing with. We're dealing with the political issues, although there are some environmentalists, obviously, in Divided We Stand, and there are some people involved in politics on Environmental Coffee House, but it's a way to be able to breathe, when you see all this nonsense going on, and you need to have this tribal atmosphere to be able to survive, and you have to have these groups. So, yeah, I think it's important that we stick together with this. And as Ron said, when you hear these things, when you see these things, it has to be spoken about. You can't just shove it under the rug, because we will become like Russia. Let's see. Echo on Ronnie. Okay. It might have been on the other one there.
Sorry.
I think we're near the end here. Okay, so anyway, Ron, I am going to cut it short tonight, folks. This is basically an hour-long show. Next week, who knows how long it'll be, but I appreciate everybody, being here. No real new news from Dave. When Dave's ready, Dave will be ready, and that's all I can tell you. And we have our fingers crossed for Dave, and hoping that he does well. So, yeah. Yep, Brian and Ronnie, I love you, both of you. Thank you, Sandy. I would like to lay on your couch, smoke a joint, and listen to both of you talk all night. I think we all need to smoke some joints, you know what I mean? I'm not endorsing it for everybody, but...
Speaking of that, I didn't really get to talk about...
Oh, right! Ron, can you take a minute or two just to... Ron did know... what's his name? Abby Hoffman.
Oh God! What?
Well, look, my mind's in a million places. So, yeah, want to quickly, because I'm sure some folks were interested in your situation with him, which of course was in the 80s, correct?
89.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your feelings about him and your encounters with him?
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't know that much about him at the time. And by the way, this is Abby Hoffman. I think I cut Brian off. I met him in 1989, and he was resurfacing as an activist in the Bucks County area, Pennsylvania. And we went to a concert to see Richie Havens, not knowing that Abby Hoffman was there, but he was actually holding the benefit for this environmental cause up in Bucks County. And my friends dared me to ask him if he wanted to get high with us. Now, I didn't really get high at the time very much, but I said, okay. So I walked up, and I thought, this man is never going to say yes. So I did, and he was talking to some people, and he went, sure. So he came in our car, and he was like just so crazy. I can't, whatever character, personality was portrayed in the movies, it was true. It was all true. He was definitely crazy. And, we sort of talked a bit about the 80s and how much we didn't like them, and how we looking forward to them being over, and Reagan and this and that. And he invited me to have lunch with him, but I didn't want to go alone. So I went with the friends that I was there with, and which he did not like. Obviously, he had other things on his mind. But by the time we had gotten to see him, which was maybe 2 weeks after that, he was in very bad shape. He had broken his leg, and he was on a lot of medication, it looked like. He was not very talkative. He was not willing to talk about anything we wanted to talk about. And a couple of weeks later, I found out he was dead. I mean, it was just I felt like I didn't get a chance to, explore having met him. One second he was vivacious and energetic, and the next minute and it almost seemed like almost like a bipolar thing again. But, it was very disappointing and very quick and bizarre. But yes, I could say I smoked a joint with Abby Hoffman. My claim to fame.
Did you see any greatness in him, or was it a
No, it was
letdown?
actually very disappointing because what he seemed to be focusing on was the fact that I came with friends and he thought I came with bodyguards, which meant he thought I was, trying to protect myself from him. He was sort of like being a womanizer. And I guess he kind of was back in the day too, he was, definitely into women, and he was an attractive younger person. He certainly wasn't when I met him. And let's not forget he was 20 years older than me. So I wasn't interested. And, I was interested in talking to him about things, but he was not interested in talking about anything.
Which is kind of interesting because you would think that he would have
very
focused on what was really was important, but then
Yeah, it was really. But then again, the environment that I met him in was a good, political environment. He was trying to prevent, the pollution of the Delaware River, and raising money for it was an organization that he started called Delaware.
I was
And-
familiar with that back in those days.
Yeah.
Delaware.
And I thought that was really cool because I had been working for the League of Conservation Voters around that time. And I just thought, wow, this would be exciting. Oh my God, like I could get to work with Abby Hoffman and, and I actually came home one day and there was a message from him on my literal answering machine, which I should have saved the tape. But, I'm telling you, something happened.
What did he ask for on that? Was it the food or something?
Yeah, he wanted knishes from the Jewish deli. Yeah, he's a nice Jewish boy from Massachusetts.
And that was it.
He said we could come to his house if we brought knishes. So yeah, I mean, we brought him knishes, but he was like out of it. He was totally out of it, and I felt like I missed out big time on getting to, hear stories and, what can I say? My brush with fame was very brief at that point.
Sometimes it's always that way,
Yeah.
It is interesting story though, and it has come up a few times. The name Abby Hoffman and Steal This Book. You still have the book somewhere. I know that. I couldn't.
Several. Yeah, he actually gave me several books and signed them. Yeah.
But he didn't want to talk about it.
But he didn't want to talk about them. No.
More worried about the food and
and sex.
And sex, right? Food and
Yeah.
sex. It's more like an Ian Drury song,
It was
sex and drugs and rock
it was
and roll.
like, oh no,
And
you're
can you-
kidding me. You're
Yeah.
like gonna do this, it's like, Mhm.
Yeah, I could understand.
Yeah.
You're meeting somebody of significance, and then they just kind of
yeah.
drop the ball, so to speak. It really, yeah. Well, people will do that,
And the
Individuals.
fact that he got high with us, not even knowing who we were, it was just like, it was pretty chancy. Anyway.
Right. Well, that's interesting, Ron. Really, really interesting. So, yeah, it's always good to have those stories. So, Ron, I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Aw.
It's a big help. Didn't have a lot for the show during the week to come up with. I was very, very busy, but I think we put together a decent enough hour.
Kanye was
Yeah.
sucking the air out of the entire week. So
Yeah. So, but I want to thank everybody. It's one thing I didn't have on was the music in the background. So I guess I won't have any strikes. I shouldn't have any strikes from Facebook. Ron, I usually have like really light Facebook music on,
I know.
and I didn't have it on tonight.
Well, your office looks great, Bri.
Yeah, how do you like the colors, folks? It's a teal color. And Ronnie and I worked really hard last weekend. And, I think I'm paying for it in some way. I mean, if my sickness isn't from it, it certainly didn't help because I've been sick, no COVID, but I've been sick for about a week. Not terribly sick, just not right. Something's not right. And
no more
kind of
painting.
started, but it looks a lot nicer. I like that. I feel much more relaxed in this room than previously. So, yeah. So, but yeah, no COVID, but I've got something, and it better leave because I don't want to be like this for the whole time. So, anyway, Ron, thanks a lot, and we'll see everybody next week. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.